There was a world where our main charactergonist lived. In this world, it didn't matter if you were rich or poor, only those with good looks could reproduce. In the case of our main charactergonist, he was a young man whom life played a cruel trick on. Despite being handsome and well off, one day he was hit by a strong acid that transformed his face into a monster, losing the possibility of reproducing. Tired of the insults and rejection, he enlisted as a doctor in the army, saving lives and gaining fame and popularity. But one day, a missile was directed precisely at the base where he was stationed, and in his last words, he begged God that if he could have another chance at life, he would make the most of it. And so, we see his dream come true as the main charactergonist reincarnates in the body of a man who happens to have the same appearance as he did before his accident, and the same name, Shen Lang. As the main charactergonist admires his new body, he momentarily receives the memories of the original owner of that body. Apparently, the real Shen Lang is a failure in this world and despised by people. According to his memories, the body's previous owner fell in love with a girl who had an illness, and her parents were willing to marry her off to anyone, although she would later recover. They treated him with such contempt that even the servants insulted him. Until one day, his wife scolded him, and the main charactergonist lived a seemingly normal life with his wife, until the day the body's previous owner fell ill. Although they sought doctors, it seems that on the very day the main charactergonist reincarnated into that body, the young Shen Lang died. As the main charactergonist felt excited about the life he was going to live, he overheard some maids apparently trying to poison him to get rid of him. They panicked upon seeing him alive and signaled that the main charactergonist was still alive. Then, the main charactergonist sees a kind of computer with data he had taken to Africa, and his eyes apparently combined with those of an X-ray machine. Thus, he now had all the knowledge of medical procedures from his past life, with a privileged view. His wife enters, excited and relieved that her beloved had awakened, along with the doctor, and she asks them to check him. When the doctor tells Shen that he is in good health, for a moment she reveals her true intention, and the main charactergonist realizes this, although she tries to camouflage it. The supposed wife of the main charactergonist seems kind in front of him, asking the doctor to leave them alone, trying to indirectly suggest that he should leave the family. The main charactergonist realizes that the view the former occupant of his body had about this woman is false. Then, another man enters and insults the main charactergonist for not understanding the hints they were giving him about leaving the family. It turns out that this man is the new fiancé of the apparent wife, and after a while of insults, the main charactergonist agrees to leave while still admiring her beauty. Later on, he hears that Princess Jin Mulan is getting married or something like that, which would take away all the glory from the Xu family, and they should hurry up with their own wedding. The main charactergonist seems interested in the girl. After a while, he is kicked out of the Xu family's house, being accused of things he didn't do, and humiliated in many ways. However, the main charactergonist doesn't pay attention to the mistreatment and decides to go to his parents' house. He doesn't know that his former father-in-law had planned to get rid of him on the way. The main charactergonist has access to the memories of the previous occupant of his body and knows how to get to his parents' house. At night, while he is walking calmly, he is caught by some people who are close to his parents' house. However, 5 men arrive and ambush him. The main charactergonist says that he expected this to happen in a way. The men tie him up, gag him, and put a cloth over his eyes so he can't see, taking him on a path he doesn't recognize until they take the cloth off his eyes and show him that they had dug a hole to bury him in. When they were about to bury him, the main charactergonist, with his X-ray vision, could see that the gang leader had a needle in his chest that would kill him. He tells the man, who is impressed because not even his own wife knew about it. However, when the main charactergonist says that he can remove it if he spares his life, the gang leader refuses, saying that the main charactergonist's brother owed him 100 gold coins because one day he went to treat his father. Then, the main charactergonist unlocks the memories of what happened, and it turns out that his father, when he was newly married, went to his wife's house to pick him up but returned home beaten up. So the main charactergonist gets angry with the former occupant of the body. The gang leader tells him that they will go for his brother and parents and destroy everything, but the main charactergonist, who is about to be executed, wants to save his family and tells the leader that he will get 1,000 gold coins in 10 days. However, the gang leader gives him only 3 days to gather the 1,000 coins. The main charactergonist, confused by the short time, suspects that the gang leader has 3 days to kill his family by order. Wanting to have proof, the main charactergonist tears a piece of cloth from his clothes, and with his blood writes that he owes 1,000 coins. So the story goes like this. The main charactergonist owes a debt to the Exu family, who are notorious bandits. The boss of the gang orders 2 of his subordinates to escort the main charactergonist to his house and stay with him for the days he has to pay the debt. He threatens him, saying that if he doesn't pay, he will kill his whole family along with him. On the way, the main charactergonist asks to stop and begins to think about a way to make 1,000 gold coins in 3 days to save his family, help his father, and get revenge on the Exu family. However, the escorts ask him how long he is going to stay in that area without moving, and if he really wants them to take him home. The main charactergonist thinks that his family must be anxious not to see him for 3 months, and that his father is injured and wants to return and see them. The teacher tells us a little more about this world, saying that the village where the Shen family lives has a stone fortress with about 20 soldiers protecting them. He adds that the families in that village live near the river, but his family lives too isolated because they were foreigners in that land until just over a decade ago, and they couldn't settle in the village. In the main charactergonist's house, we see that they suffer from poverty, and we also see a man in a bed coughing, and a woman sitting next to a young man who is lying in bed. The main charactergonist's father, who is coughing up blood, says he will go and ask the Exu family for more time, although his wife tries to convince him to give up because he keeps spitting blood. But the old man is determined to be killed to save his son. Then the younger brother of the main charactergonist, who was also badly injured, says he will go, even if it means going to war with the Exu family. The main charactergonist, hurt by everything he has just heard, enters, prostrating himself and announcing his return. His relatives, moved to tears, hug him and welcome him. His mother trembles, feeling happy to see her son again, so the main charactergonist prostrates himself again, apologizing for his foolishness and saying that he will not go to that family again. Then his mother hugs him again, believing that her son is now sensible. The main charactergonist also apologizes to his father for all that he has been through, and both his father and mother are surprised at how wise or intelligent he has become. The main charactergonist is surprised that his return is so well received. So, the younger brother asks the main charactergonist if he was expelled, and he nods. Their mother, relieved, tells him that his brother and father will support him in everything, even working to help him get the wife he wanted. However, the main charactergonist tells them it's not necessary, emphasizing that his father's illness is a priority. He touches his father's forehead and uses his X-ray vision to analyze his internal condition, then devises a plan to treat him, declaring that they will go and find herbs to cure him the next day. He then asks his younger brother to show him his leg, analyzing the fracture, and his brother says that he would even throw himself under a carriage to blackmail and get money for him. The main charactergonist feels offended by how indulgent his family is towards him, asking his brother how he got the fracture, and everything points to it being the fault of the Exu family. The next day, the main charactergonist gets the herbs and treats his father's wounds, healing him in a short amount of time. His mother, father, and brother are all surprised by his feat, and his mother excitedly exclaims that they can save money to open a clinic, and that he can marry the boss's wife. The main charactergonist is surprised by his mother's mentality and steps out of the house for a moment, where he meets the escorts who remind him that he only has 2 days to save his family. After that, the main charactergonist enters the house in a bad mood, but his mother greets him with a cup of hot water to wash his feet. The main charactergonist, who judges the previous owner of the body as useless, tells his mother that he can do it alone, but seeing her sad, he decides to let her wash his feet. He's happy to have such a loving family and promises to repay everything the previous owner of the body owed them, but he plans to solve his debt first. The next morning, while the main charactergonist and his family were having breakfast, the gang's subordinates knock on the door and pressure him to make money before the deadline ends. The main charactergonist's mother asks who they are, and he says they're his friends. One of the subordinates happily introduces himself and invites them to have breakfast, saying they've already eaten. The main charactergonist tells them he'll go with them to the village to see a professor and won't return until night, and one of them goes along with it, saying they'll go to his house in the village so he won't go hungry. However, the main charactergonist's mother, worried about him, gives him an egg to eat later. On the way to the village, they come across a father and his son arguing about losing a bet. The gang's subordinates recognize them and demand that the father pay the debt he owes them. They tell him they don't need him to pay anymore, and they lead them to a bush where they kill them. The main charactergonist asks the subordinate if they really knew them, and he reveals that they had known each other for over 10 years, and that he killed them because they owed him 24 gold coins, and they had lost all their savings the night before. He tells the main charactergonist that getting 1,000 gold coins in 2 days is impossible, and that there's no point in prolonging the wait, as they could kill him. He says that getting that amount would require at least 10 years of savings from a normal village, and a poor and different boy like him couldn't do it in 2 days. But the main charactergonist says that he's not normal, and exclaims that he can collect 1,000 gold coins in 3 hours. The main character and the subordinate of the gang arrive at one of the largest, best protected cities with 25 villages under its jurisdiction. More precisely, they arrive at the commercial district, where in front of the pavilion, the main character stops and states that there he will earn 1,000 gold coins and chains to take revenge on the Exu family, one of the servants of the Lin family that is a rival of the Exu family in terms of selling silk fabrics, comes out to receive them, and the main character says that he will earn 5,000 gold coins annually. The servant is somewhat gullible, so the gang member had to insist that he call the patriarch. The servant escorts them inside, and the patriarch comes out to meet them to discuss the business that the main character wants to propose. The main character says the same as the servant had done, that he was going to give him a way to earn 5,000 extra gold coins annually, but he needed 2,000 gold coins to give him the key to such wealth. The patriarch feels that they have wasted his time and demands to be thrown out. Then the power are a golden handkerchief to the patriarch. When he sees it, he is amazed, but he does not believe that it was the main charactergonist who has done it. He reproduces it and tells him to give him an hour, and he could recreate the same dye even better. This type of cloth is special for the king's family, that is the one that sells the Exu family. So after a while, and explaining how he made the recipe, the main character shows a new handkerchief totally golden to the patriarch of the Lin family. This amazed gives him the 2,000 gold coins, and the main character gives him the recipe for golden silk cloth. The patriarch of the Lin family is amazed and tells him that he will become richer than the Exu, but they are interrupted by the arrival of the Exu family, being the patriarch of this family, who exclaims that the main character stole the recipe for his silk cloth. The interference of the Exu families, the main character imagines that it was the patriarch of the Lin family who warned them that he was there. The patriarch of the Lin family claims that it was him, because his son is related to the Exu, and they will benefit from his alliance to get him into the army. The main character tries to think how to get out of this situation, while he receives all kinds of insults and accusations from his ex-wife and his ex-father-in-law. His ex-wife tries to be indulgent and cries, trying to defend him, although everything is false, both in the accusation of the patriarch of the Exu family, who calls some agents to decide what to do with the main character for the robbery. However, the main character's ex-wife asks for an apparent clemency from her father and begs the main character to say that he really stole the recipe to be forgiven. However, the main character thinks he is being underestimated and laughs and launches a counter-accusation, exclaiming that they have no proof that he stole anything. The patriarch of the Exu family treats him as an inept person who would be able to create a formula like that. So the main character takes it that there is no proof for the accusation and exclaims that if he can make a better dye than the current one, then he will be free of any accusation, and to the disbelief of his ex-wife, he says that he will even make a purple dye, which by the standards of this time was always quite ugly, so the main character issues the challenge to the Exu family. And his ex-wife tells him that if he manages to make a better dye, then her family will withdraw without charges. So the main character slightly mocks the Exu patriarch and exclaims that in 3 hours they will see the results of the whole test. Besides asking the agents to serve as witnesses, the main character can work on his formula, and in his words create something mind-blowing. When night comes, the Exu family exposes their fabric, astonishing those present and showing off the techniques they used by presenting a book with the ingredients to the men who act as judges in this competition. So one of the judges considers that the main charactergonist had festively stolen the recipe, so the father arc of the Exu family asks them to proceed with the rest. So they give the order, in that the main character comes out, and before the accusation that he is going to be imprisoned, the main character is surprised to see the linen that the Exu family had created. However, this exposes a fabric of purple dye brighter that leaves impressed and amazed all those present, much more than what the Exu family did. The ex-wife of the main charactergonist does not understand how it became so good, being that it was a disaster. The main charactergonist, to confirm his victory, throws the handkerchief he had made and exclaims that if they are not convinced with that, he will show them another one. The new handkerchief dazzles everyone. Being a rainbow handkerchief, one of the judges asks to see it, while the former father-in-law of the main character is in shock. The judge analyzes the fabric, being amazed by the masterpiece he is holding in his hands. So the main character asks the judge to do justice. The judge asks the patriarch of the Exu family if those recipes were also stolen from his family. The man, ashamed by the defeat, denies that these are recipes of his family. Leaving that place with much will go, the man, ashamed of his defeat, denies that these are his family's recipes and leaves the place with much anger, just as his daughter asks for forgiveness for everything he caused and leaves with much fury without understanding what has just happened. He also leaves. In one circumstance, the young girl saved him from a bear attack and also attended him. The judge the main character was talking to was in love with this girl, and with the intention of seeing her, at some point he knew proposed to teach the main character as if he was his student. But it didn't work out because former body bearer was a brute. However, the judge is outraged that a simple peasant has asked for the lady and leaves the place. The main character, without thinking twice, is aware of the risk in which he is involved, since the Exu and Wang families will not leave him alone. Leaving the place, he also crosses his ex-wife, who proposes a work deal in exchange for money and recipes for fabrics, trying to convince him with flirting. However, the main character ignores her and leaves her talking alone, although she resorts to a very devious method and tells him that he still owes her the debt of 1,000 coins, and if she doesn't want her new husband to kill her family, he will have to give her the recipe for the purple and rainbow fabrics. The main character yells at her, asking how she knows about the debt of 1,000 coins. However, she leaves in her carriage. Then the guy from the game tells him that he has until the sun sets to deliver the 1,000 coins and the recipes, or else they will finish with his family. All this leaves worried the main character, who does not know how to solve it. But he knows that all this has to be solved in that night. Why cannot return to work as slaves in the Exu family? In one of the streets of the city enter some men on horses. Escorting apparently someone important, asked the citizens to open past. The main character, who was walking around, hearing that Miss Jin Mulin also came with them. The product dissimulates, walking to enter the street, taking advantage of what the lady was passing and be rammed by the horse. The lady stops men and looks that the main character is still alive. And although he looks familiar, in the end he pays no attention to her and orders his men to take him to the palace and deal with his life, since they cannot afford to kill someone innocent. All this turned out to be a plan of the main character para. Get an audience with this lady and they can save his family. The main character is apparently unconscious, gets the pressure in his mind that the next thing he says or does will determine that his family live or die. The main character is transported to the mansion of the family of the young Jin Mulin, and when he wakes up he is stunned by how huge this mansion is. Entering the mansion, the young Mulin is presented to his parents, who ask him how was the performance. Mulan's father feels a little sad that his son is not as heroic as she is and tells her that the situation in the system is changing drastically and is putting his family in crisis. Mulan says that she will stay then, and that will look at the weight, even though she cannot marry. At that, one of the servants enters and informs him that the main character wishes to talk to him. So the father, thinking that it is some kind of marriage proposal and recognizing that it was the young man that Mulan's cavalry ran over, gives him permission to come in. The main character introduces himself in front of Mulan's father, and he asks him to talk about his daughter's marriage. So the main character mentions that he has learned that the Zhu family wants to ask for his daughter's hand. These words leave both Mulan and her parents frightened. It is explained to us that this family is made up of other quite powerful families. Mulan's father demands the main character to tell him how he knows such a secret information even for him. So the main character tells him that he was the son-in-law of the Xu family, and on one occasion his ex-wife and her new fiancé were discussing that topic. So one of Mulan's father's servants corroborates that the main character was a son-in-law of the Xu family. Mulan's father distrusts the version he has been told about him, but at the same time he distrusts the main character, so he orders one of his servants to go and inspect the routes leading to the mansion. After that, Mulan's father confesses to the main character that he does not trust him, but the information he has given him is of great value, so he will reward him. Then the main character, honored that you let him in talk, and that you tend him in a reward, begs him to let him work and learn there. Although his real intention was to approach young Mulan and make her fall in love. Then Mulan's father accepts it and tells him that he will study with the prince, and that he will not be sensitive to him. Not like his parents, the main character does not finish thanking him when one of Mulan's father's servants comes in with bad news, saying that General Zhu Lin has camped in a nearby city and is now heading towards that place. Such information leaves the main character and Mulan's father completely frightened, the main character in a tense situation, since it would damage his plans to marry the young Mulan, since they would have to give her in marriage to the young man of the Zhu family, and also he needs enough time to develop that plan. We can also see the desperate situation in which Mulan's father finds himself, because his military power will be forced to respond to the orders of the Zhu family. The Count's wife suggests that they refuse, but in his despair he says that this would only bring more problems, because it may be a direct order of the king himself. Then the young Mulan, ready to destroy his face, Mulan's father scolds her for her decision, and after discussing it for a while they agree that their only way out is Mulan's marriage with a different person before Lin arrives. Although Mulan, prostrating herself, says that she will not want to marry someone outside her family because her younger brother does not have the strength to support the family. However, Mulan's father ignores this and sends a servant to look for 5 men worthy of marrying his daughter. The main character's words provoke the anger of Mulan's father, although his wife manages to calm him down, and this order heir 10 gold coins to his family. But in that, with a great expression of joy, Mulan calls the main character second fool, words that leave a little bewildered the main character. But it turns out that in the village there was a fool older than the idea, and nicknames both were good friends, and since then, Mulan always saw him as a child. Although he agrees to let him be one of her suitors, Mulan's father tries to protest, but he himself questions that the main character will not win, and was only put there out of pity, ordering to take him to the 6th studio. So the main character is thrilled that Mulan remembered him, and sets out to prepare to win the hearing. The selection of the future son-in-law of the Count's family begins. Selection to be made by Mulan, selection to be made quickly, so that in the evening they can have the wedding. The first candidate was the favorite to be chosen. Since he and Mulan have a decade of knowing each other, he was the man who played the judge in the main character's contest against the Xu family. Mulan only asked each candidate one question and was leaving, thus arriving with the main character, asking him the same question. What can he bring you if he enters the mansion? The main character thinks of all the things he can offer her, until at the end he tells her that he will give her freedom, only if she does not commit adultery, impressing Mulan with his answer, but she gets upset and leaves, blushing, insulting the main character. Although main character mentions that he will already get the victory, so after a quarter of an hour, Mulan arrives before her parents and tells them that she chose the main character to be her husband. The news upsets the Count. who does not understand Mulan's decision. So after explaining her motives, her mother cries for her daughter's maturity, and her father is silent. Although angry, then Mulan begs for permission. Her mother tries to change her mind, but Mulan explains the benefits of having the main character be her husband, since the zoo would stop being interested in her when dealing with someone like him. The Count, annoyed, hits the wall to see his daughter suffer, asking for his son. The Count asks his servant to bring him a whip, and together with his wife they go and whip their son. While on the main character's side, a guard says he will take him to a guest room, thus confirming the main character as the winner of the contest. He asks the boss to look for his parents as fast as he can, as they are in danger of murder. The boss tries to reassure him and tells him that he will protect them. In a tavern, the boss of the gang, what threatens the parents, the main character gives the order to go for them and kill them if the main character puts up resistance. The town was a bustle because of the wedding announcement, but in the end, the bandits arrive at the house of the main character's parents. Entering with arrest warrant, they destroy the door of the house. But to their surprise, the main character's family members were armed and ready to die. When the gang's man tries to kill the main character's family for rebellion, the Jin family's army chief arrives and states that his master requests him for the wedding. The gang's subordinate asks his identity to the chief, and I am with a threatening aura, I asked him his name. The subordinate of the band recognizes the boss and proceeds to let him take them. Then the army chief of the Jin family gives the order to his men to take the parents of the main charactergonist, being transported in carriages, and then the boss says goodbye to the bandits. The subordinate of the gang half faints when the boss leaves, so his companions ask him what is wrong. He gives him the details of who this man was and reveals that as the main character has a strong relationship with the Jin family, it will be the end of him and everyone there. So they decide to inform the boss of the gang. Arriving at the gang's hideout, the subordinate finds his boss in the middle of intercourse and tells him everything that happened, terrifying the boss and ordering the woman he was with to leave. And after thinking about it, they both assume that the main character will be the son-in-law of the Jin family, so to plan something, he goes to the house of Su and Ling family, exposing his assumptions. Everyone, although incredulous, decide to go and prepare for any idea that I have the main character. When the time came for the wedding, there was much speculation and a big celebration, surprising all those who had betrayed him. When they saw the main character get off the carriage, because someone that anger and all the evil they had caused him would come upon them, advanced the wedding ceremony. When it was about to conclude, the lord of the city arrives requesting to let him see the face of the husband of Miss Mulan. After the arrival of General Zhu, he asks to know the face of the man worthy of marrying his niece Mulan, as well as all the guests request to show his face. So the main charactergonist agrees to the request of the surprising all the guests that it was the main charactergonist. His ex-wife fails to understand anything like the other guests because they chose a man so stupid to be the husband of a woman so prestigious. Then the fiancé of the brother's ex-wife accuses Mulan's wedding of being false because it is impossible that she wants to marry such an inept man, to which the other guests also begin to launch his accusation. The main character asks for some proof of what is a brainless, and a guy who studied with him writes him 3 words completely difficult for most of the guests, promising that if he can decipher them, then he will stop calling him brainless. So the main character uses the computer skill he has in his mind, and then deciphers the words, impressing former classmate and everyone for recognizing such difficult words. And to corroborate that he was correct, they ask a literary teacher about the pronunciation, who affirms that the main character said everything perfectly. So the main character tests the skill of his former colleague and writes him a very long text of unknown words and tells him that if he recognizes 4 words, then he will obey him. Although the guy only recognizes 3, exclaiming loudly, "I'm an idiot," the situation makes everyone present mock and humiliate the guy who just said such a word. Then the literary and former head of the city threw him out of there and asks the main character. Wants to know a word that even his students have not achieved. The main character accepts the challenge, and then the literary teacher writes a word that leaves amazed all those present, because they fail to recognize it, but the main character associates it with the letter of the value of the Japanese currency yen or yuan, and tells the teacher that perhaps they do not know the pronunciation of the word, but if the meaning of this, and exposes that he knows the pronunciation of the word, One of the teacher's students exclaims that it is impossible for an inept, as he knows that word, challenging each other to hit you if either of the two loses. When the main character gives the meaning of the word, the teacher is surprised, and the other guy tries to make fun, saying that he is making it up. The teacher recognizes that he cannot lie and agrees with the main character, so he wins the bet he made with the other guy, causing him to slap himself. All the guests present are surprised at how smart the main character is for recognizing a word as little as that one. Even Mulan's own uncle recognizes him as a good man. Then the Count gives me permission to the main character and Mulan to go to see the parents of the teacher, who had not wanted to be at the ceremony for fear of humiliating his son. After chatting and saying goodbye to his parents and his brother, the product and Mulan enter the bridal chamber, both embarrassed by what it means to enter this room. Mulan tells him, the main character, that although it is not customary, she cannot consummate that night with him despite being husband and wife. She is still only focused on taking care of her family. The main character says that there will be no problem. However, Mulan, to prevent him from feeling bad, leaves him her maid to spend the night with Alan, the consummation he can have offspring, but they will remain husband and wife after that. The main character recognizes the beauty of the maid and plays along. Mulan, a little embarrassed, leaves the room, but the main character, knowing that the maid was crying for not wanting to be there, gives her permission to leave. The next morning, Mulan apologizes for not being able to attend her parents' house with him and asks him what goals they have for the future. The main character simply says that he has a desire for revenge against the Xu family. Mulan only eats confused food, terrified by her husband's words. However, Mulan tells the main character that he cannot because they might come into conflict, just as he cannot kill his ex-wife's new husband because they also came into conflict with the lord of the city. The main character complains that he can't do anything for revenge, so he just asks if he can voice that they will make you her ex-husband's new lover, and as he was not told no, he runs off to fulfill his revenge. Surprising Mulan that his desire for revenge is greater than wanting to talk to her. The main character of yesterday before his in-laws and informs them that going to visit his family, hiding the fact that he wants to go to take revenge on the gang leader and the guy who stole his ex-wife. The Count gives permission to leave, tells him to take 2 gifts with him. Then the main character leaves and asks for a carriage to be transported, but instead they bring him a wonderful horse for him to ride, being a disaster because he does not know how to do that, falling off the horse again and again, causing embarrassment and impression on the face of the soldiers who accompanied him. So in the end, they leave by carriage and arrive at the base of the general of the band. The guards threaten to shoot, but one of them recognizes the men who came in the carriage as members of the Count's militia, informing the chief to come out to meet him. The latter comes out with a completely feigned attitude, although deep down he was annoyed that not even a day had passed, and they already wanted to take revenge on him. The chief invites the main characterist to come inside and drink tea. Inside the fortress, the main character discusses the debt of 1,000 coins. Then the boss pretends not to care and burns the piece of cloth that contained the promise, stating that he forgot the debt. But the main character does the reverse and tells him that it is the boss who owes him the 1,000 coins. Burning the only proof of that debt, people will think that he had come to blackmail him. The boss of the gang gets terribly angry. Although with his pretend attitude, he accepts the money to the main character of that supposed debt. Besides, the main character asks him for the interest for the delay. The boss gets annoyed or more and reluctantly gives him 100 extra gold coins, asking him if he has any other request. Then there is a shelf of silence in the room while the main character takes the tea and asks to call subordinate number 13. This was the man who accompanied him for at least 3 days. The boss asks him what he needs him for. The main character says he just wants to break his legs for going to arrest his parents the night before. The words make the boss even angrier. But he says that subordinate 13 is not there. Then the main character says forget it for the moment and leaves the boss's base. Then the boss, all pissed off, smashes the table and sends to burn the chair in which the main character confronted him, grumbling about what a bastard the main character had become. While they were talking about the fact that the subordinate number 13 did not show his face in the village, the main character came back with a bang and mentioned that the speed of the subordinate number 13 was surprising because he came back from a 1,000-mile trip in a few seconds, taking the boss by surprise. The main character had arrived at the lair of the boss of a gang They had hired to kill him looking for Minion and Egg 13, but supposedly not finding him made the boss, and Minion and Egg 13 believed that he was in hiding, that he had left. However, the main character returned and declared to Minion and Egg 13 that he would break his legs for having tried to kill his family, so he appealed to the promise that the boss had made to him that when 13 returned, he would break his legs. The boss saw Minion 13 as his son, and since he had made an alliance with the Zhang, furious, he breaks the table with a blow and tells the hero to stop bullying people. So the hero replies that he is doing exactly what they did to him. So the boss mocks and exclaims that he refuses, and as he works for the city count, only he can apply justice to him, and that if he does anything to him, he will have to answer to the count. He adds that he wanted to befriend the hero, but as he acted as a fool, he exclaims not to blame him for revealing himself. The main character again asks him to break the legs of 13, but again the chief refuses. He even challenges the main character or his soldiers to do it. But first he reminds him that this kind of scene could generate that the peace and harmony in which they live is broken. Before such words, the main character announces that he is leaving to see his parents, but he does not leave without making it clear that he will return the next day, and like an obedient dog, he will do what he is ordered to do. However, the boss mocks the main character for believing so much, when in reality, he does not have much status within the family. So the main character leaves, leaving his threat in the air, and the boss responds by suggesting him to follow the current. After that, the main character is escorted to his parents' house, where his mother anxiously asks him, how are they treating him at the mansion? So the main character says that everyone is kind, and gives some gifts to his family. To his brother, he gives him some medicine for his injuries from Mulan, his wife, and to his father, he gives him some money to build a decent house. Although the old man didn't want to accept it because he thought it was money that came from his wife's family. But the main character says it's money he earned from some dyed fabrics he sold, so his father ended up accepting it. Then he tells his brother that when he heals he will help him in the afternoon. Before leaving, his mother tells him that his best friend of all his life was serious. The main character says that despite being someone of low IQ, he has a huge heart, but that since childhood he has had to live extremely painful things, from being abandoned, taunts, being treated like a misery by his stepmother. So he quickly arrives at his friend's house. The stepmother forgot that now the main character is important and almost mistreats him. The main character asks for his friend, so he was told that he had gone to work. Then the main character says he will look for him, and leaves a generous sum of money to his friend's stepmother to be treated better. But the stepbrother says he must be rotting in the mountain, so the main character quickly goes out to look for him. And upon finding him, Dasha tells the main character that those wounds were for saving his brother from a wild animal, and since they couldn't treat him, they left him there. So the annoyed main character swears that he will make them pay for all the mistreatment they did to his friend. The main character asks how many days he has been there abandoned, to which Dasha in his own way replies more than 5 days, without having received treatment, food, water, and constantly losing blood, so the guy knows he is going to die. But even dying, he shows that he still wants to protect the main character. The main character, full of nostalgia, says that even today there are people who try to bully him. So Dasha stands up like an animal and covers the main character with his body, saying stop bullying his friend. So the main character in tears tells him that he is fine. So with the help of the main character's guards, he tries to lower him on the ground. So full of anger, he exclaims that he will not let him die like this, and will make his father recognize that his son is very good. So the noble Dasha says that he wants to show his father that he is useful to take care of him when he is old. So he takes Dasha in the carriage and arrives at his father's house, where he complains to his family for how cruel they were with him. But his stepmother says that this is how the people of the mountain are, and as they are very poor, they could not afford to take care of him. Then Dasha's stepbrother makes fun of the main characterist, so the latter, annoyed, overturns the table with all the food, and when the stepbrother tries to complain, the main characterist kicks him in the woobos with the intention of leaving him sterile, so the guy starts to wallow in pain, and in the situation, Dasha's stepmother insults him full of anger and frustration, calling him waste, garbage, etc. So the main character asks her to leave him, because he doesn't hit women, so he just pushes her. So the old woman says she will sue him before the ex-sue, but the main character says that he has nothing to do with them anymore, that if she wants, she should tell her husband to go sue him before the Count's mansion. The main character leaves and resumes his way to the mansion, because there is a lot of medical material there to treat his friend. But when he arrives, he is stopped by the head of the mansion's guard, who was one of the candidates to be the family's son-in-law. The main character asks for explanations, so they tell him that it is a routine check. So they discover Dasha inside the carriage, so the guard explodes against the main character for the audacity of introducing anyone to the mansion, and orders to take him out of the carriage, but the main character exclaims to be let into the mansion. But in the end, nobody listens to the main character's order, but then the main character's wife and father-in-law arrive, explain the situation, and both of them decide to help the main character's best friend. The main character's father-in-law sends for the mansion's doctor, and Mulin tells the main character that she will guide the carriage because the main character does not know the inside of the mansion well, apologizing to the main character for having allowed it to be damaged, impressing the main character, calming the main character, who felt lonely in the mansion. But really he has his wife. The head guard intervenes and yells at Mulin that it's against the rules, so Mulin takes a whip and tells the guard to turn around, scaring the guard away, and when he turns around, she whips him so hard. She whips him so hard that the guard is so scared that she can't see him. She tells the guard that she beat him for being willing to let someone die, and for treating her husband disrespectfully, asking him to correct his attitude next time. So the guard reluctantly accepts the punishment. After that, a while passes, and the doctor rules that it will be difficult to deal with Dasha's wounds. The main character in his mind exclaims that the doctor has nothing out of the ordinary, but between him and the doctor, is the doctor better than him at that moment? Mulin asks him if he will be able to treat him. The doctor says yes, but that it will be complicated and expensive, so he leaves to get the medicine. Mulin recognizes his best friend and tells the main character that his brother is safe. The main character says that they are not brothers, but Mulin says that it is because of their relationship that she considers them brothers. Then his father-in-law arrives and tells the main character that they should go to talk in the study. When they arrive, the main character's father-in-law scolds him. The main character thinks it is for bringing his friend like that and tries to excuse himself. But the father-in-law claims him for blackmailing the head of the city guard and ordering him to break his stepson's legs. So the main character on his knees thanks his father-in-law for saving his family, exposing what the Exu family did to him once he was kicked out of the family. Upon hearing the story, the main character's father-in-law angrily swears that he will make them receive justice for messing with his father-in-law. So when he sits down, he tells the main character that the lord of the city came expressly to tell him about this situation, telling the main character not to go out for a few days, that he will take care of this problem. But as the main character refuses, the father-in-law gives him a book with the family codes to memorize and then release it. So the main character says that his father-in-law took a month, Mulin 23 days, and his brother-in-law still can't. They are about 70,000 words, so the main character, using his scanner, memorizes everything in an hour, but in order not to mistreat his father-in-law, he will tell him the next day. While in the main character's in-law's bedroom, they bet how long it will take to memorize. The next morning, his mother-in-law tries to make soup for the main character to help him memorize better, but the guard tells her that the main character went to sleep early, infuriating his mother-in-law. In the morning, while the main character is walking around the mansion, he is interrupted by his father-in-law, who yells at him for being so lazy and going to bed early and not studying. The main character reassures his father-in-law, claiming that he went to bed early because he had already finished memorizing the whole family code. His father-in-law does not believe him because it took him a little over a month, and Mulin, who is a prodigy, took 23 days, so he thinks she is pulling his leg by saying that he memorized everything in one night, ordering a guard to bring him a whip to apply the family law. According to him, it is a punishment for breaking the rules, scaring the main characterist to see his father-in-law go to that extreme. But his mother-in-law intervenes and tells her husband to at least give him a chance to apologize for his words. But the main character stands firm and says that he has already memorized everything. He even asks for a test. Such words annoy his father-in-law, who was considering giving him a second chance, thus starting the test, asking the main character to recite several chapters of the code. He is perplexed to hear how the main character recited letter by letter. The main character's father-in-law still doesn't understand, so the main character's father-in-law tells his wife to leave them alone, so she takes the whip brought by the guard, and when her husband asks her what she intends to do, she tells him with much annoyance that she will whip her son, because he has been unable to memorize anything. Once alone and having taken a seat, the main character's father-in-law asks him how he did it. The main character begins to say a lot of nonsense, so his father-in-law asks him to speak well. Then the main character tells him part of the truth, that when he was in the Exu's house and he was dead and resurrected, his mind acquired the ability to memorize and not forget anything. Then his father-in-law relates him with someone who happened something similar, who was a nobody and died and resurrected as a master of martial arts. This man was able to give the foundations to his family with a large territory under his fief, so the main characterist thinks he could be someone like him. Then his father-in-law, knowing of his ability, asks him to go to study to exploit their skills and recover the 10 years that despite studying did not achieve anything. Then his father-in-law lifts the punishment and the main characterist goes to bother the chief of the city guard. But his father-in-law prevents him because the system is about to change and he could be stripped of his name as a thief, and promises the main characterist that in 6 months he will do justice to him and his family. The main characterist thanks, but states that this is something personal and of honor that he must solve. Then his father-in-law tells him that he will not be able to fight against the chief of the guard because his family has no jurisdiction in his city, but he tells him that he will not allow them to harm anyone in his family, and if they do, then he will go to war against them. Then the main character promises to defeat him under legal agreements and without leaving loose ends, so his father-in-law allows him to go, as long as it is as he has just exposed it. Then the main character says he will definitely beat him and make a mockery of him in front of everyone. The head of the city guard has his biggest source of income boarded in casinos, so the main character will use that to beat him, when he starts winning over and over again, until he causes the head of the guard to end up bankrupt. The main character arrived in the city and all the citizens are whispering to see him there, some even claiming that the count would break his legs for entering a casino. A guard feels the need to stop the main characterist, but another guard says that they cannot intervene in the decision the main characterist made. When the main characterist enters the casino, he surprises the 19th adopted son of the chief of the guard, who is impressed to see the main characterist got into the lion's den, but immediately gives him a place to sit down, asking him the reason for his visit, to which the main character expresses that he has come to play, but that right now he has no money to mommy and asks to borrow some. 19 accepts with the intention to lend him a lot of money and lose, and then use that for the count to kill the main character. The main character asks for the interest of 1,000 coins, which are 10% of the annual loan, then asks to make a promissory note for the 1,000 coins. Once the loan is done, the main character exchanges the coins for the chips, asking to start playing a simple one, starting a game of chance in which they will have to guess what is the number that comes out in the dice. The betting starts and excites all the people who see the main character betting a big amount, surprising them even more when they see that he won 1,000 gold coins in the first try. He accepts that he lost, but he is not afraid. 19 accepts that he lost, but he is not afraid, saying that he will let him try what it is to win a bet and then take it all away. Throwing the dice again, the main character put everything, surprising the spectators that he bet 2,000 gold coins, winning again, impressing all the spectators. But this time 19 starts to look more worried about the amounts he is losing, because if he doesn't do something he would have the biggest losses in years, and obviously his father would finish with him for letting him lose so much, and especially from a family enemy like the main character. The main character supposedly praises the game and the good luck he just had. 19 with a fake smile thanks him for his recognition. However, this time he will be the one who throws the dice, because he has a trick that when he throws the dice he changes the numbers once he finishes throwing them. For that skill he had earned the respect of his adoptive father. Once he throws the dice, the main character asks him if the number is big or small, while in his mind he is aware that this time he will make him lose everything. The main character looks at the glass where the dice are and takes 19's hand, and expresses that he no longer wants to play that easy game and wants something of more skill, and exposes that he wants to play Pai Gao. At such a request, 19 was excited because the main character requested to play the best ace that the adopted son of the chief of the guard can have. So 19 orders to bring the game. It is a game in which 32 chips are placed on the table, and the winner is determined by the one who draws the highest number. Besides, there are different methods to make cheats. Once they bring the game, 19 expects the main character to be completely ruined, but the main character says to buy new cards because he distrusts him. But seeing 19 doubt, the main character threatens to leave the establishment. Then 19, scared, orders to buy new cards, trusting in his skill in the game. So after a while, they bring him different pieces to play and give him the opportunity to choose the one he thinks best. After choosing one, the main character gives him permission to draw first to 19. Then he proceeds, and the main character, using his ability to scan eyes, manages to see the numbers of the cards, seeing that 19 drew a double 10, having the 6th place of the combinations. Then the main character decides to draw the 5th place. 19 bets 100 coins, and the main character 1,000 coins. And seeing how they cheered the main character's bravery, 19 gets excited and bets 1,000 coins too, trusting in the hand he got. So it was time to reveal the cards, surprising 19 to see that the main character won, and at the same time astonishing the spectators of the supposed luck that the main character had and how he beat one of the luckiest. Annoyed, 19 does not explain how he could win. So he demands that they play one more time. But even though 19 tried again and again, the main character kept betting 1,000 coins and winning, receiving the ovation and praise of the other spectators, and at the same time, 19 was sweating with frustration and anger, still wondering what kind of luck is that the main character has that does not allow him to lose even once, not believing that he lost 13,000 gold coins, questioning that he lost against a guy who was a nobody, and immediately realizes that his father will skin him alive, feeling a great fear inside him. So he stands on his feet and asks permission to retire for a moment to take a breath, because he felt dizzy. Lie. We know that one goes to the bathroom, so in a mocking tone, the main character wonders why he is leaving if he has not had fun yet, asking someone else to play with him. However, while he staggered away, you can hear the cheers that the other players and spectators made to the main character, calling him God of Gambling and praising his luck. While the main character was keeping the fortune of the head guard was at the Xu family's house, mockingly telling the main character's former father-in-law that a day ago the main character had come to him, ordering him to cut off the arms and break the legs of his son 13, mocking how stupid he is. So the lord of the Xu family mocks him because he has taken it into his head to be the count's son-in-law, mocking that he expected the count's family to help him, even telling him that he went to one of their casinos, and that for sure now he must have a huge debt, for which the count will throw him out of the mansion, laughing loudly, because that would mean that they would get rid of him right away. Then 19 arrives with a big fuss, exclaiming that something big had happened. Then the boss scolds him for seeing him panting just for running a little, but 19 tells him that he was wrong. Prostrating himself on the floor, he begins to bow. Then the boss asks him the reason for seeing him, and if he has already got rid of the boss and left him with a big debt, and tells him beforehand that if it is less than 10,000 gold coins, he will skin him. Then 19, scared shitless and sweating. He can't imagine what they will do to him when he finds out that he lost 13,000 coins. Then we are informed that for the count to lose 10,000 gold coins would mean too much, because even though the number of his soldiers was reduced, he still has to maintain the whole mansion and more or less 3,000 people. And as the count considers all his people sons, he did not reduce what he pays them, to that adding that they have financial problems. For the main character to lose so much money would mean his expulsion or execution. So the patriarch of the Xu wonders if the count refuses to pay. Then the chief says that the main character wrote a promissory note for a loan he made to them, and as he came from his account, they have no excuse, and if for some reason the case comes up before the governor, he still has an ace, and he doesn't care if it offends the count, because he has powerful people backing him, so the count could do nothing. so Mr. Xu intends to use the main character to have the new system of government applied in the city to strip the Count of his title. So Xu orders the boss to take the promissory note to the Count and go collect from them, so the boss decides it is worth a line with the Xu, even though he is giving 35% of his casino income to the family. So the boss says that in the afternoon he will take the promissory note and go to the Count to collect the money, and maleficently he wants to see the Count's face, and what he will do to the main character. Then he asks 19 how much is the debt that the main character has with them, so hesitating, 19 says 16,000 coins. The boss rejoices and congratulates his son for his work, and Mr. Xu exclaims that the Count is lost for having accepted that useless person, so the boss takes his son and tells him to go to the Count, but with a lot of fear and with a broken voice, he says that the boss did not lose the coins, but that it was them. Leaving for a moment in shock the chief of the guard, who immediately explodes and says to speak clearly, if the boss won or not, so praying to God, he exclaims again that the boss won 16,000 coins, but mentally destroying the boss, because all that money is the annual profitability that the best of his casinos obtains, asking how he was able to beat the skills of 19, who is the best player, asking if he cheated, but 19 says he played clean, but labels him as a demon. So he throws his son and claims Xu for having told him how useless the main character was, so Xu also does not explain how he has done so many wonders. Then the main character's ex-wife arrives and suggests that they go to the casino and find out what he did. So the boss sets off. After a while, the boss arrives at his casino, seeing the crowd exclaiming for him to pay. So the main character says he wants to collect the 19,000 coins he won. And also the other people who bet with him won 7,000 coins, asking him to pay a total of 26,000 gold coins. That debt is equivalent to all the savings of the boss of the gang, that although he could recover some of the money in a few days, he must also maintain the staff, maintenance, etc., so this can lead to bankruptcy. So the boss internally gets angry with the main character for what he did to him. Leaving him completely with his underpants down, he has no way out to turn this situation around. He can't touch him for being the son-in-law of the Count, and he can't deal with the hundreds of players that won at the expense of the main character. So if he refuses, all the players will side with the main character against him. So the main character blackmails him, appealing to his honor as a man to pay. So the boss gets off his horse, and with the best of his face, asks the main character to talk alone. The main character accepts, and then the other players claim him and demand that he pays them and that they exchange the chips for coins. So the main character gives them his word that he will not betray them and will give them satisfactory news. That is how the players return to praise the main character. Even one said he loved him, causing embarrassment in the main character. Once on the second floor of a casino, Boss Chin complains to the main character for the low method he used to make him break 13's legs, and tries to blackmail him with the Count's reputation. The main character adds that he is aware of the Count's reputation, but in his case, since he did not have a good reputation, anything out of what is ordinary, you will be considered a prodigy and praised by everyone. So the boss Chin asks if he still wants to force him to break his legs. The main character answers with obviousness. So Chien says he won't let himself be blackmailed for the 19,000 coins to break his son's legs, because it would also break his authority in the city when they find out he lost to someone like him. The money he can get back, but when he loses his authority, it's all over for him. So the boss is relieved, thinking to pay him only 10% of the 19,000, but he wants both things. Such a request would anger Boss Chien, so much so that he gave the impression that he wanted to attack him. So the main character's guards would cover for him. So the boss Chien, all unhinged, says that he will never agree to the main character's terms and will never harm 13 because he was the one who sent him, and he will never give him the 19,000 gold coins either, challenging him to bring his father-in-law and break his honor and come to collect what he won. But after that, the Count will break his son-in-law's legs, so he goes out the window and orders the 7,000 pieces to the winners to be exchanged for the gold coins. Then the men praise the boss Chien. Then he tells the main charactergonist that the gamblers are already on his side, and in a few days he will recover what he lost. And as the Count will not come either, nobody will support him to collect the debt, so he will not give him anything. Then the main charactergonist applauds him and tells him that in that case, he will continue winning with other gamblers in the game. He challenges him to send someone to stop him, inviting all the gamblers to follow him to win more money until the casinos are emptied. So while the flawed gamblers praise the main character, he retires and says goodbye to the boss Tian. The main character resumed the game along with hundreds of players sweeping the casinos. The players who followed the main character went crazy to see how they earned money betting where the main character indicated them. Such a streak was so great that the casino managers were pale. They were incredulous at what was happening, and in each game, Chin only received reports of losses of thousands, informing him that the main character won a single coin. The others have won thousands. Such news left Chin angry. Even one of his sons, annoyed, suggested to throw the main character out of the casino. And when he arrives, the main character claims that if anyone touches him, he will make Mulan kill his whole family. So the annoying guy cares about that and orders the main character out. But the main character says to try, if he can beat the Count's guard. Plus all the gamblers who are getting profits from the bets. The adopted son of Tian doesn't know what to do when the players who used to support the boss Tian and are now praising the main character change sides. The main character's son, considering to get rid of the gamblers. So boss Chin orders to close the casino and change their chips the next day, raising a horde of gamblers who complain about the change of their chips or because they will lose their streaks, to which the main character expresses that they should not worry and urges them to go to another of boss Tian's casinos. As there are 4 more, they should go one by one, earning the ovation of all again. But boss Tian gets even angrier and regrets not having killed him when he could, so he orders him to close the other casinos. Boss Tian refuses to give it into the requests of the main charactergonist. The casinos represent 60% of the gang's income, and by closing them, they were losing the daily income they generated. One morning, Mr. Jin sends for the boss of the gang, and when he arrives, he finds the patriarch of the Exu, who asks him for answers. They were representatives of the Zhang, who were the ones that the boss Tian had offered 35% of their profits in the casinos in exchange for the alliance. So Mr. Xu asked him to give him reasons for keeping the casinos closed. So the boss informed him that it was necessary to not lose everything because of the boss. So Mr. Xu recommended him to hire a master to get rid of the boss, although he would risk to fight against the Count's cavalry, asking what are the terms that the main character put. So the boss Chan finds out to Mr. Xu, so this Xu tells him to fulfill him. Before such suggestion, the boss gets angry and alleges that he is his best son, and if he does something to him, the others will be shaken and he would be disgraced. So Zhang Jin orders him, because they are having considerably high losses, promising that one day he will get him to take revenge on the main character, adding that he is someone insignificant in front of the goal of acquiring the Count's mansion. Shin clenches his fist and teeth so hard that he bleeds. Then Mr. Jin promises him that when he gets rid of the Count, both his territory and the title of vice mayor of the city will be for him. So with much hatred, Chin accepts the order. Only a quarter of an hour later, Tian meets with the main character and promises to break 13's legs in public, asking him not to cause him any more inconvenience. But the main character with much impudence corrects that price changed, because 14 also insulted him and was with every intention of beating him, asking him to break both of their legs. Such a request makes Tian shudder with anger, and he runs out of patience. Then the main character says that if he doesn't accept, the price will go up again, adding that he will have to break the legs of all the members of his children that he sent to kill his family. He will have to break his legs. Shin's patience overflows, and he throws himself on the main character with a lot of hate, and with all the intention of killing him. Taking him with his hands, he squeezes him until they hear cracking and something breaks, without giving time to his guards to intervene. After splitting the main character in half and leaving the guards terrified, the boss Tian laughs like a madman, while the blood of the sprout falls on his face. However, it was all an imaginary idea that the boss had. In reality, the main character asked him to accept the deal to those who wanted him to add more value to the price to please him. So with much frustration, the boss Tian will not allow the main character to destroy the business that with so much effort and so much time he had spent to raise, accepting the terms of the prototype to break the legs of 13 and the arms and legs of 14. However, the main character added that it will not be enough with that, but they will have to throw out the gang. They cannot visit them, they cannot send them money, nor can they take care of them to heal, asking him to let them fend for themselves, and if he finds out that this was not fulfilled to the letter, he will come to continue purging the gang. So with much pain and frustration, Boss Tian accepts all the terms of the main charactergonist. At the entrance of the casino, there would be a large crowd watching what was about to happen. Seeing that two of the most valuable sons for Boss Tian are about to be punished, they begin to speculate the motives of the boss. So one of the adopted sons of Tian exclaims that he does not interfere in their affairs. Then the boss begins to recite the charges they have to be punished, expressing that they had a problem with the main character wanted to take revenge on him, and being the son-in-law of the count and his best friend. He cannot allow them to bother him, and to bring order in his family, he will punish them severely and sends for the stick, a piece of log, and it is as long as Tian himself. Then this man approaches 13's ear and asks him to excuse him. However, this is not a gesture and avoids the conversation, an action that slightly annoys the Chief Tian. Then he lifts the stick and with a single blow breaks 13's legs, causing him to collapse and causing horror before all the spectators of such punishment. Before such a fact, 14 trembled, and seeing that in his turn, he begged his adoptive father not to do it. Without hesitation, the Chief Tian lifts the stick. Then 14 claims that he has been very loyal to him, and does not understand the reason why he does that. But with a shout, he ordered him to shut up, and at the same time he broke his legs. And while he collapsed, he broke his arms, leaving him dying before such a demonstration. The other members of the gang feared to be the next ones because 13 and 14 were the most loyal and diligent to Boss Tian and ended up like that. So the gang would begin to fracture inside. Once finished, Boss Tian asks the main charactergonist if he is satisfied. He reports that he says no, that he had promised him something, and as a good man of his word, he expects him to fulfill it. Once again, the boss gets angry because he has already lost too much that day and will still lose more, curing that he will make him pay when he is power of the Count's mansion. So the main character tells the boss that seeing that it was getting late, he will hurry to finish, filling with anger more and more the boss Tian, who does not believe that this is not over yet. So he tells the main character not to push him. However, the main character says that he is not the one who is pushing him. The main character then collects the 19,000 gold coins from Boss Tian. This infuriates the boss, who because of the main character had lost a lot of money, leaving the warehouses empty, so the main character being benevolent allows him to give him 2,000 coins, and the rest he will pay later. But this proposal also angers the boss Tian, because that is what can barely generate the casino, so the main character presses because he must leave, so the boss fantasizes seeing himself lifting the stick with which he broke the legs of his children and destroy the head of the main character. At that moment, the boss Tian receives a note that possibly comes from the Zhang family, where they tell him to give the money to the main character, that as it is dirty money, the Count will severely punish his son-in-law. Then the boss breaks the stick he had and agrees to give the money to the main character, and orders to pay the main character the 2,000 gold coins, after bringing him the 2,000 coins. The boss asks the main character if he is already satisfied. The main character checks everything and expresses to be satisfied, while the boss thinks that he has cheated him, because now he cannot withdraw the money without his father-in-law punishing him. So the main character exclaims that he is not interested in money. He only came to do justice for those people who lost their families because of gambling, while the boss only filled his pockets, earning the admiration of the people, and to top it off, the main character adds that he will not take a single coin, but all the money will be for the people, throwing the coins at them and causing a shock to Chief Tian, who can't believe all that the main character just made him go through, breaking his children's legs, buying the villagers' loyalty with his money, causing Chief Tian to spit blood with rage, then from a window. Mr. Zhang analyzes all that the main character can be, and as they see that there is a hustle because the main character gave away money, they think of using it as a smoke bomb to finish him off without being blamed. While Shen Lang continues to give away the gold he rightfully won from the malicious Tang Casino, the City Lord and San plan a new attempt to get rid of the charismatic Shen. Their plan is to provoke a stampede among a crowd of citizens, which will result in multiple tramples that will end up with Leper being killed. The most important thing about this is that accidents happen, and no one can blame them for what happened, right? The city lord agrees with his companion that it is normal for many people to die in such situations, and as long as Shen dies, everything is acceptable. Outside, the count does not foresee the fate he expects. The crowd cheers and praises every new gold coin that Shen throws to the citizens. Sanjin's plan consists of 12 warriors mixing with the crowd and provoking the stampede. When it happens, they will approach Chen and beat him as if there is no tomorrow. Finally, they will blame the Count's mansion for everything that happened. Nothing can go wrong. What they did not count on is that the savior Shen has a memory like an elephant and recognized the faces of Shang Jin's thugs mixed among his followers. Knowing that they are up to no good, he takes the lead and calms the people, stating that he has run out of gold to give away. The agitators take advantage of this and quickly encourage others to look for the gold in a violent way. However, Shen takes out the promissory note he forced the casino to sign from his pocket and calms the crowd. He declares that he will not accept any coins from that check, and that, on the contrary, he will give it to the citizens. He argues that he obtained that money unfairly from the people, and all he has done is recover it. He will leave it to the city lord to collect the debt from the casino, and then hand it over to the people who have worked so hard to earn it. The people go crazy in a good way in response to Shen's speech, and somehow cancel Sheng's plans. Finally, Shen runs away and proclaims that they must believe that Lord Lu will do the right thing for the people. He realizes that he must leave immediately because of the commitment he has just made, but Shen intercepts him before he can escape and pushes him onto the balcony so that the people can see him. Facing the public, Shen hands over the promissory note to remove any doubts and corrects his wish, stating that he wants the city lord to be the one to collect it. This way, Tan will not dare to refuse to pay. He initially thought that the note was just a worthless piece of paper. But now that he has committed himself in front of the people, it is worth 17,000 gold coins, money that belongs to both the casino and him. He can refuse, or everyone will discover that they have hidden dealings, something that no ruler wants his people to think. He puts on a good face and accepts the kind task of recovering the money to give it to the people. The crowd goes wild with the news and praises the city lord and his benefactor, Shen. Quickly, Shen escapes before the chaos reaches him, and the people enter the palace, praising the city lord while Sanjin looks on discontentedly at what they have accomplished. Meanwhile, at the Count's mansion, his father-in-law paces back and forth, waiting for his return and to hear the news of his trip. Although he is more concerned about what Chan and Sam may do to him. As one of his subordinates leaves the room, he announces that he has an urgent message to tell them. To not make it longer, he tells them about his victory over the casino. What caused them to break the legs of 13 people and the hands of 14 in Tangenheim was affected when he publicly made him vomit blood over the amount of gold he lost. Obviously, all of this seems implausible, but Shen manages to achieve it. On the one hand, he felt happy that Shen won all that gold at the casino, and on the other hand, he was stunned when he found out what he donated to the village, leaving him speechless for his kind action. He thinks he could destroy the conspiracy between Liu and Sam, a complete victory. Only he never believed that both would attack him, implying that his mansion is more dead if they dare to do so. Although Chenga does not think it was too risky, he will not have such luck in the future. He commits to giving him a reprimand when his wife arrives, supporting that notion. He finally arrives at the mansion, trying to avoid his father-in-law as much as possible, but what he did not know is that he was already waiting for him, resulting in an unexpected heart attack. The main characterist immediately applies the infallible "I was wrong" to save himself from any possible punishment. His father-in-law did not lose the opportunity to recriminate everything he did. He thought he would solve it brilliantly, but upon realizing that he gambled in the casino, offending a long family tradition of not approaching those places of the devil, he did not stop apologizing throughout the sermon until finally his mother-in-law came to the rescue, justifying that he is still young and it is normal to be ignorant. He should stop scolding him all the time. Her husband sees it as an act of betrayal, because they had previously agreed to teach him a lesson, not even treating their own children with such diligence. He ends with a warning, prohibiting him from going to such places, and then asks if he is hungry, glad that everything is over, but not because his father-in-law has more to say. Not only does he prohibit him from going to those dives, but also from stepping out of that mansion, making sure that this time he cannot repeat what he did before to escape. He orders all his guards, and they obey his orders. Shen thinks that now he is being very ruthless, imprisoning him in the mansion, but his father-in-law claims it is for his own good. He must not attract any more attention. Moments later, he finds his wife welcoming him to the mansion and asks her why she has her armor on. She explains that she was ready to go with her troops. As Mulan and Shen continue their patrol, she offers to help him if anything were to happen in the city. She then proceeds to remove her armor and they have a dinner together. Shen is awestruck by Mulan's beauty as he sees her without the armor. During their meal, Mulan advises Shen to think before acting, as he could put himself in danger. Shen agrees and Mulan's hands slip across his body, which she sees as a gesture of love, but she quickly withdraws.